Welcome back to this exploration of some pieces of data inside a computer. I mean this bold adventure to explore the outer planets and Kerbal Space Program. As you can see, all the ships are waiting in a parking orbit around Kerbin for the right transfer window to open. I'm sort of making this series up as I go along, so if you notice something missing or want me to include something, then message me and I'll do it. It has been said that because your own strength is unequal to the task, do not assume that it is beyond the powers of man, but if anything is within the powers and province of man, believe that it is within your own compass also. One thing I meant to add to the last episode, but forgot, was a rundown of the ships and the crew. So I'll get to that later on. The other thing I said I'd do last episode was fully deploy the ether ship. Here I am moving the heat shield arms into position. The docking mod comes in handy for this, mostly because getting the alignment correct is critical, as even a small deviation will cause the craft to spin during Sarna's descent. I tried a design that involved a heat shield on the bottom, but when it came time to drop it, it would often blow back up and break the engines and then destroy the ship. These arms on the side work much better as the separatrons move them away from the ship. The little fuel tank on the arms is part of the RCS system to keep it balanced. When the arms are in place, the RCS drone will detach and then deorbit. This is the Sarnas ether fully assembled and ready to go. The brave, Modine Kerman will be crewing this ship. And here are the RCS drones deorbiting. Well, one probe core survived, which means this is technically a partially recoverable mission. Next is getting the Fat Boy docked with the farther ship. Alon Kerman is the scientist flying it. It's a little awkward as the Fat Boy has to be slightly tilted to one side or the science equipment isn't accessible. I'll be taking 2 copies of every piece of science data. One to be saved and taken home, the other to be processed in the science lab. This trick will generate tons of science, and you can even process data that has no value because you've already collected it. Which is what I just did. That was science from an orbit around Kerbin, which is science I fully collected long ago, but the lab can still process it. The last thing to do before setting off was fixing a very annoying bug that kept happening with the father ship and its booster. With cheats off, it would just wobble itself apart, usually breaking the booster's engines off. With cheats on, and unbreakable joints enabled, it would shake around violently and launch a Dane Kerman out of the solar system at 1% the speed of light. I tried undocking and then redocking the booster, but that didn't fix it. It seemed to be something to do with part clipping and auto struts. Fucking weird things happened when I would go in and out of time warp. I had to then remove the old booster and send up another one. Very similar design but no auto struts and the 6 big fuel tanks no longer clipping. Seemed to work. The first transfer window that came up was to Nidden, with Arlem being next, then Sarnas and finally Plock. 2 ships were launched to Nidden. The Nidden Ether ship and the Relay Network. I'm pretty sure it's meant to be pronounced, Nye. Dawn. But this text-to-speech program does it wrong. This one is the Relay Satellite. MacJeb's Manure Node Editor very useful for fine-tuning of the orbits. This next one is the Ether ship for Nidden. Because its transfer stage is nuclear, a few passes at perigee were needed to complete the burn. It accidentally got an Arlem encounter as well as a Nedian encounter, but this didn't mess up its overall trajectory, so it was okay. Next Overton window was for Arlem. Like Nidden, only 2 ships were heading out. Again, the Relay Satellite and a Ether ship. So I'll skip over that. And now the big Sarnas transfer. A total of 6 ships leaving Kerbin. The Relay Satellite, the Ether ship, the Slate Scanner, Granny's Mead, Christians and of course the Father ship, with its booster and Fat Boylander in tow. Here we have the Christian. After the burn was complete, I set up a deep space maneuver to fine-tune the orbit. With Sarnas I'll try and get as many of the ships as possible to get a Slate encounter. As a gravity assist from it can give you a free Sarnas capture. Unfortunately not all ships will be able to get a Slate encounter because of different arrival times. Now that the Christian has completed its burn, we can take a better look at it. The upper portion of the ship, with the heat shield, is the lander. It will drop through the atmosphere of Tecto and land. The crew, Hardy and Sam Kerman, are safely housed just above the main accent engines. This is to save on ladder costs. Those things just keep climbing higher and higher. Below the main lander in the cargo bay is the scanning satellite. Its job is mostly just to get even more science out of the mission via the ScanSat parts, but if we detect an anomaly near a good landing site, then I'll check it out. This is the Slate Scanner. This probe should have been stowed with the Granny's Meat in the same way that the Christian had its own scanning probe, but I forgot. It has the same job too. Looking for extra science and also any anomalies that might be near landing site. Here is Granny's Meat, the Slate lander. Leon Kerman volunteering for this high-gravity mission. The double capsule is for collecting 2 sets of science. One for processing and one for keeping. The science nose cone will be detected after all readings are taken, to save on weight for the ascent. The ascent will be made by a single fuel tank and a small Terrier engine. The descent to Slate will be made with this large, fuel-heavy stage, powered by 2 vector engines. And lastly is the large nuclear transfer stage. And the final and most important transfer. The father ship. The booster section has enough change in velocity to make then entire transfer to Sarnis. Once the burn is complete, it detaches. The father ship will go on and be captured into a stable Sarnis orbit under his own power, whereas the booster will crash into Sarnis. Inside its cargo bay is an atmospheric probe designed to survive a direct entrant at transorbital velocities. The mission is now underway. All ships have departed, with a long interplanetary voyage ahead of them. Next episode will be released in real time, so see you in 3 years.